A huge shout out to Billy Kills for supporting the channel on Patreon. Prossh Skyraider of Kher versus Malestrom Wanderer. Yeah, this should be a good matchup. We both want to ramp into our commanders really quickly, which we are not going to do with that hand. Yeah, okay, that's better. I think we have to start things off with the Finned Horn Elves. Let's get rid of Finale of Devastation. And we'll go in for a... It'll have to be a red and green source here. Play the Finned Horn Elves and see if our opponent can match us. They cannot, unfortunately for them, so let's shock in the Overgrown Tomb. We'll go for the Soul Ring into the Arcane Signet. And from there, we'll go for the Sylvan Caryatid as well. And it looks like we're getting our commander down on turn 3. Or maybe we just go for the Perforos first. Do we want to rush commander damage or not? Yeah, alright. In Nature's Law, I think we can take a turn off for a Perforos. No, they've got a Skull Clamp, so... Yeah, I don't think we need to worry about Skull Clamp. If they want to get rid of their mana dorks, then so be it. Crystal Vein might help us. Now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 for Perforos. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Still one shy of getting both down. Yeah, let's just go for our Perforos first. And then even if our opponent does get rid of our mana dorks, we can still go for our commander. They're going for an Oblivion Stone. That's pretty good. I imagine they've just drawn into that because they wouldn't have gone for Skull Clamp otherwise. Let's get down the Woodland Cemetery. Go in for our commander. Alright, they decide to scoop it up there, so they don't fancy their odds even after cracking the Oblivion Stone. I think I would have played that out personally. Let's see what we were going to draw into over the next few turns. Just more mana for us. Don't think Great Hoof would have helped us. Anyway, that was a really quick one. Doesn't really count as a game, does it? So let's get on with another one. Prossh Skyraider of Kher versus Azusa Lost But Seeking with another bad one lander. I could play that because we're on the draw. If we get into green, it's actually pretty good because we can go 1 Power Stone, Skura Tribalder. We'd still be missing a few colours though. Well, not after Skura Tribalder, but anyway, we'll mulligan. And with that, we can get down Devoted Druid. We'll get rid of the Crater Hoof. And hopefully we can get into another black and red source, because then that will switch on the Reflecting Pool. Anyway, get into another forest. Let's just play one. Our opponent has gotten into a legendary land, comes in tapped, and they can use that to play legendary spells. So that is a turn 2. And Azusa, I think our opponent's going to outrace us this game. Getting down 2 lands, and of course, it is Eldrazi Temple, as is typical with Azusa. They're always ramping into Eldrazi. And then going for a Grim Monolith. Wow, so they've got 2 mana on a legendary spell. 2 mana on an Eldrazi, so that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9 next turn. If they've got an Eldrazi in hand, they could go for it. We get ourselves into a black source, so let's duress them and try and take them off of something. I imagine we are too late to make use of duress, but we'll go for it anyway. Alright, there's a Summoner's Pact, a Horn of Greed as well. Definitely go for the Summoner's Pact. Yeah, they're obviously F6 there, because they could have gone for that in response to the duress. So, a bit of a mistake from our opponent. They play out the Horn of Greed. And then a Verdant Catacombs, I think... Nope, they haven't played out the Eye of Ugin yet. We know what they're drawing into. The Horn of Greed is really good in Azusa. Get into a Sol Ring as well. And now they play the Eye of Ugin. I think that's 7, isn't it? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So they can search for something next turn. Azusa just going crazy on us here. Let's drop the Reflecting Pool. We'll go. Oh, we draw a card off that as well, don't we? Okay, get into another black source. Go for Findhorn Elves and the Devoted Druid. And then not going for the Eye of Ugin Tutor, instead going for Grim Monolith. So it might be that they've already drawn into an Eldrazi. Playing a land, first of all, that is Blast Zone. And then Rishadan Port as well. Playing a Prismatic Vista as well. I think that's all the lands they can play this turn. Cracking a Verdant Catacombs, getting themselves into Gingerbread Cabin. When it enters the battlefield, you create a food token. Don't know what they do with a food token, to be honest. Anyway, now they're going for the search with Eye of Ugin. And it's Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger, which they can cast this turn. And they'll probably go for our lands. So this is us done. Let's just watch them cast it and see what they target. Alright, going for the Reflecting Pool and a Mana Dork. That's us done. So we'll leave it there. That's a couple of one-sided games, one for us and one from our opponent. So we'll see if we can actually get something going with Prossh. I don't think we've cast it yet. Okay, our opponent is the same as the Azusa opponent that we just played, so they clearly fancy their odds of beating us in a mirror match. Brought out their own Prossh Skyraider of Kher. We are going to... Yeah, I think I need to work on the mana base here because I've only just built the deck and I'm not liking that tap land. We could have gone for a turn 1 Dryad Arbor here, but yeah, we can't do that with that hand. So let's just go for the Cinderglade. We've got all of our colours at least. We'll be able to get down the Dryad Arbor with this next turn and get down a Boreal Druid with Reflecting Pool. Our opponent goes for a Utopia Sprawl onto the forest. And we get into Xenagos. Let's go, Reflecting Pool. Green Sun Zenith, exactly like we said. Put 0 into X because the Dryad Arbor is a 0 CMC creature, so we can get it out with that. And then Boreal Druid as well. We are on, if we had black mana on a Mana Dork, we could have gone for Ancient Tomb into our commander there, but unfortunately not. A Dark Confidant from our opponent. And there's a Stomping Ground. Okay, so yeah, we just have to get out the tap land here so that we can generate black mana. So let's go for that. Definitely need to work on the mana base because we're putting ourselves a couple of turns behind here when there's no need to. Anyway, our opponent reveals a Tranquil Thicket with the Dark Confidant, then going in for Liliana of the Veil. So I think we're on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 with that Ancient Tomb. We're still going to be able to get out our commander next turn, hopefully. And then deciding to not bother swinging in at us with Bob, we will go for our Prossh off the back of an Ancient Tomb. And obviously 6 mana is going into Prossh, so we'll get a bunch of Kobolds into play. And then our opponent is cycling their Tranquil Thicket. No haste because we haven't gotten down our Xenagos yet. But if our opponent doesn't manage to get rid of our Prossh, we should be able to win next turn. We only need to buff our commander up to 11 power, and then we can double its power with the Xenagos. And we should be able to get them next turn, but we'll see what our opponent does, of course. Our opponent gets into an Ancient Tomb of his own, so I think he's on his own Prossh now, isn't he? Alright, instead going for Into the North. And then a Perforos, so they're trying to set us up for a lot of damage next turn like we did in the first game. They're obviously not expecting us to win on our next turn. We will be forced to discard. We'll get rid of a forest here. And then we get into another land anyway. Let's get ourselves into, I don't know, a black and green source I think is okay. Then we'll play out the Xenagos. Sacrifice ourselves up to 11 power. So that is all of our kobolds. And then we'll go through to combat, point the Xenagos at our Prossh, and then swing in straight at our opponent, bypassing the Liliana entirely. So that's the type of thing that we want to do. There's a few combinations of things. We've got some aristocrat wins and stuff like that we can go for in the deck. Diabolic Intent is obviously really good with the kobolds that come in. We can make the kobolds relevant with, what are they called? Coat of Arms and Shared Animosity, stuff like that. Anyway, I'm going to do what I don't normally do here. Let's go straight over to the deck list, and we want to take out Castle Lochthwain. I don't have any of the Pain lands in here, so why don't we take out... there's some tap lands. Yeah, I don't want the dual tap lands if we're going to keep drawing into them. There was Cinder something. Alright, yeah, so that leaves us with the damage lands. I don't know if I can search these up on Magic Online. Let's just type damage, and we'll not look through sets, we'll look through type. Search for a land that has damage written on it. Okay, yeah, there we go. So we want the Jund ones. Sulphurous Springs. There is Carplusum Forest. And Llanowar Wastes. I think that will be a lot better. But yeah, just going through the deck as it stands now, I'm not too sure about this card either. This is in here for run. Attacking creatures you control get +1 to their power for each other attacking creature. That's obviously good with the kobolds. Stuff like this buffs the kobold, Shared Animosity, like I already said. Crater Hoof Behemoth, which can be tutored up with Green Sun Zenith, Finale of Devastation, not Final Devastation, Chord of Calling, and then when the kobolds die, we've got Fecundity. We can buff the kobolds with Beastmaster Ascension, so it's just as much based around getting commander damage through as it is buffing the kobolds themselves as well. Like I said, we've got the aristocrat effects in Blood Artist. Zulaport is in here as well. And then we can pepper away at our opponent with Perforos and Impact Tremors as well. So a few different ways to win. Goblin Bombardment, a similar effect. Yeah, so that's the aim. Didn't go too well for one of the games, but we at least completed that third one. I think, now that we've made those changes to the lands, we will attempt to get another game in. Another game now with Prossh, this time up against Sisay, Weatherlight Captain. And that's another change I made. I actually added Mana Confluence and City of Brass, seeing as how we want to get off to fast starts, and it's already paying dividends for us. Let's keep here. And I think we're going for a turn 1... Yeah, we're going for a turn 1 Mana Confluence into Thoughtseize and try and mess our opponent's hand up. So obviously point that at our opponent, take our first point of damage from the Mana Confluence. Let's see here. They've got some ramp. Alright, it's a shrine deck. Haven't made a shrine deck myself yet. Glare of Subdual, I don't think they'll be able to make use of. Ugh. Yeah, let's try and keep them off mana in Kodama's Reach, because they are a 5-colour deck. So Kodama's Reach will be able to pretty much fix their colours. But I don't like the look of that Idyllic Tutor either. It might be able to go for Dark Mutation or something like that. Anyway, they start themselves off with a tap land. Let's keep their reveal zone open. And we get into a Graven Cairns. We'll go for the Skura Tribe Elder. That can take us into a green source. We'll just crack that now because I don't think we need to worry about haste from this player. Alright, they've gotten themselves into another Triome. So the colours might not be a problem, it's the speed at which they get things going. That's what's going to be the problem for them. And speaking of speed, we will go for the Lotus Cobra. And then we might as well go for Fecundity. We're chewing up a lot of life here, but I think it's all in the aid of getting down a fast win, so it should be alright. Then pass the turn over to our opponent, and they get into that forest. We really don't want to see the Winds of Wrath either, so if we can outrace them past the Winds of Wrath, that would be really, really good. We're going in for our commander next turn at least. And we can always refill our hand thanks to that Fecundity now. They do go in for the Idyllic Tutor, and we will see what they draw with that. or what they tutor for. They went for a Sanctum, not any kind of removal or anything. They just want to draw as many cards as they can, which is understandable. Okay, we've gotten into one of our Planeswalkers. We've got a few Planeswalkers in the deck, and they all produce mana. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, including the Lotus Cobra. But we can't get down our commander, unfortunately. So let's go in for the Blood Crypt. And we'll put that in tapped. No need to take life to that. And then we are going in for our Prossh Skyraider of Kher. Yeah, so I always like the idea of fecundity because there is a lot of upside to it, but it does feed your opponents a lot of cards as well, potentially. But it's an absolute auto including Prossh because I don't think anyone's going to have as many creatures dying as you are. And the fact that the sack outlet is tied to the commander itself just means that you can really control how many cards are drawn with fecundity, at least by yourself. One land away from the board wipe here, but we're winning next turn if we manage to land that coat of arms, because all of our kobolds are going to get +5/+5, and they just get down that Sanctum of Calm Waters, so it's obvious our opponent is playing a much slower game than we are. This is a bit more on the competitive side. Play out the Polluted Delta, and then go in for the coat of arms, and that jumps our kobolds up to 5/6s. We'll just turn everything sideways, don't get the chance. Our opponent decides to scoop, but obviously they were losing that one there. So, like I said, not necessarily a fair game because we're in a much faster deck here than our opponent. A Sisay Weatherlight Captain Shrines deck. That's really something for multiplayer, I think, or a more casual setting. But you get the idea of what we want to do in this deck. We've won a few different ways here. One with the kobolds and then one with doubling up our commander. Might be worth putting in a double strike enabler here and there with Prossh. There is a means of, I think it's from M21, doubling the power of a creature with a 2-mana sorcery, a red one. Yeah, I think that's something that we could go for. Anyway, plenty to be going on with this deck, but I think it's looking pretty good. Be sure to let me know if you want to see any more from Prossh in 1 vs 1, and I will see you all in the next one. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.